You know what I wish people understood? I wish people understood that when they apply for a job, the hiring manager's role is to reduce the risk of the hire. And I wanted to make a longer video here because this is such a core concept that is at the back of almost every hiring manager's head, often at the back of every recruiter's head too. And applicants, if you've never been a hiring manager before, often don't understand that. And so this entire video is basically going to be a breakdown of 7 different moments in the hiring journey where you as an applicant can distinguish yourself, can stand out in a world where the hiring manager is trying to de-risk the hire. We're going to explore that relationship between what the hiring manager needs out of the process and what you can show. So number one, I want to talk about your passion for the specific role. Look, in 2024, that is a hard thing to ask for. I totally understand. We're talking about 1,000 applications in some cases if you've been in the job search for a while. And so it's hard to show passion when you do get that callback, when you do get that interview. But even if it's difficult, it doesn't make it less important. Because on the other side of the table, the hiring manager absolutely needs to see passion for the role to feel like they have the signal that would get them confidence that this person is the right one for the role, that they are a low risk hire. That's really critical. And so on your side, if you can show passion for that specific role, not even just for the industry, I often hear people stop and say, well, I have passion for this industry. There are a lot of other companies in most industries. It's very rare for there to be only one company in an industry. So show passion for that particular company and make sure you're loud and proud and clear about it when you start talking, right from the first call with the recruiter. Okay. So that's the first kind of piece I wanted to talk through, talking about how you can de-risk by showing passion for that particular company and that particular role. Number two is actually even before the interview stage. It's clarity in your resume writing. One of the things that your hiring manager needs to have confidence in is that you can write well. And I don't mean write flowery, fancy language. I mean write really clearly so they can understand you and their colleagues can understand you. This is not a YouTube video about how to optimize your resume in general. We might do that another time. This is a focused, specific tip for helping hiring managers to understand you're not a risk. And you can do that even at the resume section by being super clear in the way you phrase your bullets. I know there may be keywords you need to work in, but if you can write a really clear sentence that articulates, this is what I did, this was the distinct change that I made in an existing system, and this was the results, it really helps them understand the impact you're capable of. If you write your bullets clearly, they act like front doors that invite the hiring manager to ask you specific questions in the interviews. And those questions should be against your strong suits because that's what you're putting into that resume in the first place. So resume clarity makes the rest of your interview process easier and communicates, again, that it's less risky to hire you because you can communicate well. All right, that's the second tip. The third tip is around case studies. So oftentimes, especially in 2023, 2024, hiring managers are trying to use case studies as a way to gauge actual work. There's been a lot of discussion on this in the broader community. There's been questions about whether these should be paid exercises or not. That's not what this is about. What I'm trying to focus on is how you can utilize a case study to make sure that you can articulate that you are going to be direct about the questions you are asked at work. Because fundamentally, every case study is a question. It's a question set to you, and the manager is looking to assess whether you can answer a direct question clearly. One of the most common fail modes for case studies is an applicant will come through with a case study and they will do so much extra work. It's really clear they spent way more hours than they needed to, or even than they were asked to. And at the end of it all, what they have is a lot of what I call frills and not the core answer. Or they spend very little time on the core answer and most of their time on the frills. And I think the applicant's intent is to show how much breadth they have But what comes across is that they can't answer the question directly. It's really, really, really important to answer the question clearly and directly. That should be at the center of any case study you do, because again, you're telling the hiring manager, I am not a risky hire because I can answer questions clearly and directly. Okay, that's the third one. The fourth one, this starts right at the recruiter conversation. If you still do cover letters, it starts at the cover letter. You want to be really clear about the intention you have with your career. So this is actually more important the more senior you get. You can kind of get away with less of this if you are applying for entry-level roles, or maybe it's your second role in tech. But if you are at your third role in tech or later, you need to be really clear about the intention behind your career, or else it's going to be seen as a red flag. And the reason for that is that a hiring manager wants to be confident that if they make the hire, they are not going to have to make a hire again shortly. And so some people talk about this as they look at the begin dates and end dates and see your tenure, and then they see, are you the kind of person who stays around? That does sometimes happen. But because of the upheaval in tech since 2020, there have also been a lot of short tenures that are not really the candidate's fault. And so that is becoming less of a reliable signal. And instead, what people are starting to do is they're starting to look and see, can the candidate explain the story of their career in a way that makes it clear that this next spot with us is the spot they want to be in for a very good reason for their career long term? If they can, that is a huge plus, because it means that they know how to tell their story, communicate intentionality, and that you as a hiring manager can be confident not only that they are a lower risk hire, but that they are the kind of person who you can coach. Because if you have more intention as a hiring manager, your career development job with that person is going to be really easy, because you just want to help them draw out that intention. And again, that's one of those things that most applicants aren't really doing clearly, and that when you do, it helps you really distinguish your candidacy. Okay. That's all in kind of the early mid phases, right? Those 4 tips about passion for the role, resume clarity, case studies, making sure that you are intentional in your career. I want to now talk about the second part, where you get into the later stages. Maybe you're in the loop stage where you're talking to 5 or 6 people in a row. How do you convey that you're a low risk hire when it's down to 2 or 3 people? So number 1 is about precise fit. This is a loop stage thing. Most people don't have an assessment of whether you're a precise fit earlier than that. In this situation, you want to read the question trends, maybe across multiple different people you talk with, and where you see that they are focusing more or they're double clicking into your experience set, you can make an inference that that is the area of weakness they are trying to fix in the role. And you should focus your stories there to show that you are a strong candidate for that exact weak spot that they want to close. And this takes some experience, but you can usually start to see it when you listen for it or watch for it. And that's why I'm telling you, if you don't know to watch for it, you might miss it. But if you know to watch for it, you'll look at the patterns in the questions and say, where are they focusing on? Are they really focusing, for example, on market competition? Are they focusing a lot on go-to-market? Are they focusing a lot on technical foundations? They're going to tell you by the questions they ask, and you can show you're a strong candidate by focusing the stories you tell them back around that area to show you're a strong candidate there. Again, it's de-risking the hire. Okay, the second of 3 tips for that late stage in the interview process: avoid the weak yeses. Okay, so you're going to talk to people in a loop situation who are going to be once a week type relationships in your workplace. They're the people who are colleagues, but you're not necessarily working with them every single day all the time. Those people are not there to assess whether you can do the job. They're there to assess whether you can work well with them. And your job in that situation is to make sure that they don't walk away saying, oh, they were fine, right? I had no real objections, but I also didn't get a strong signal of this is an amazing person, if I'm being honest. I have seen a lot of that. And what that comes down to is a lack of clarity and a lack of commitment around making sure that you can show your understanding of that relationship at a very detailed level and that you've done that exact work relationship before. So I'll say that one more time. Fundamentally, they are going to walk away with a stronger yes if they have clarity from you that you have done that work relationship before, that you understand both the things that work and the things that don't, and you are committed to making it an absolutely excellent working relationship so their lives are easier. Because they will often tell you through their line of questioning where the weak spots in that working relationship have been so far. Hey, we've really struggled to get clear marketing materials out of products. Tell me how you've addressed that. Those kinds of questions come up a lot. You want to be sure that you are able to talk about really clearly with a lot of passion how you fix those exact issues. It kind of goes back to that tip I gave you earlier in this video around answering the direct question in the case study. In this case, you're answering the direct question about the relationship between this role and a colleague that you will work with sometimes, but not all the time. If you can do that directly and do that with passion and show your excitement for that working relationship, and then do that across the whole loop, you are going to come out with more strong yeses from people who could often be neutral in these situations. Because when we do the debrief, it's usually the hiring manager and maybe one or two other people who work very closely with the role who have strong opinions. Everyone else often is ambivalent. They're like, they were good, but I don't have a super strong opinion. It is rare to have most people have strong opinions. And when that happens, it is almost always a hire. And so this is one of those things where if you can figure it out, it will increase your chances of success in the loop. The last tip I have for you late in the loop stage, you want to be positioning yourself with a hiring manager and with people you work with closely as if you are already a colleague and they can imagine working with you. When you are at this stage, what they need to see is the signal that they could work with you on day one and you can just dive into the details. You won't be confused. You won't be flummoxed. You won't be wondering which way is up, but you will be focused. You will be saying, this is what I need to do. This is the next step. This is how I solve this. And what they'll do to find that out is they'll ask you questions, and oftentimes ask you questions that are designed to talk about exactly the issues they face. And so when I talked about precise fit a few minutes ago, this is an even more specific version of that just for hiring managers and people you work with closely. They are looking not only for precise fit, but for a colleague they can work with who fits the role. And so you have to both convey that you can do the job precisely and also convey that you can do it with them. And so that's where you want to come back and say, I solved this problem in this way by collaborating with these specific people who were in your role before. This is how I worked with my hiring manager before when we faced challenges communicating product prioritization to my director. Things like that, right? Where you can show a specific example from the question set they're asking that talks about how you are not only a precise fit, but a precise fit who works with the hiring manager, who works with those around you really, really well to solve problems, so that when they think of themselves working with you, what they see is, oh my gosh, this person is a fantastic solution. This is the solution I have been waiting for. This is the person I can work with. And I'm going to close there because if you want to look at a larger hack for this whole idea of de-risking the hire, the larger hack is that you are conveying across the entire cycle of hiring that you are a colleague they can imagine working with. If you want to take one thing away from the video, that is what you should take. You want to be the colleague they can imagine working with. And those are the people that get hired. And that's where I'm going to leave it. And let me know what I missed in the comments.